Hey folks, it's Jim Fuse, and I thought I'd have a little fun with the Dare to Stream challenge. And so this is going to be a first for my beautiful bride, Karen, who is a freelance court reporter. So I'm actually bringing her live on eCam. I don't think other than Zoom she's ever really done a live. And so I'm going to bring her on and ask her a few questions about being a court reporter. So here we go. Hey, Karen, thanks for being
Hi.
kind enough to join. So wanted to ask you, first of all, um, how long have you been a court reporter and what got you interested in doing it?
Total, I have been a freelance court reporter for 17 years. What got me interested in it was being able to be self sufficient financially and support my family. Um, my mom actually approached me when I was in high school and thought that this would be something I would be interested in. And my first thought at the time was, oh, that sounds so boring. You're doing the same thing every day. And, but then when I was working and realized very quickly within 6 months, I had made the same amount of money as ladies who have been there for 20 years were making. And I realized very quickly that this job is going to cut it, God forbid, if I'm alone someday with kids. So I went back to school and at night and got my certification and associate degree in court reporting and ended up being in that exact situation. So I'm glad I had my court reporting skills to fall back on and be able to provide for my children.
That's very interesting. And so I know sometimes we talk about AI and how people think that you can just record and that'll do everything. But why would you say court reporters are even more important now that people are trying to just use like digital recording to replace court reporters in a courtroom?
Um, because it's just not 100% reliable. It's definitely gotten a lot better over, the past 30 years that this has been talked about. And, but there's always a mistake or the recording isn't clear or it didn't record for some reason. It's always the big cases that something happens. It started, first one I heard was OJ Simpson, even the Casey Anthony case. Um, you just, when you figure if it's your life that's on the line, it's your life, whatever's happening, I would think that you would want a live person there to make sure that you're getting every spoken word down. um, when people talk slowly or very low, you can see their words that they're trying to speak, but the audio may not pick it up. If you don't hear something, or if people are talking over each other, you can tell them to stop, repeat. If you're just sitting there pushing a record button, there's nobody there to do that.
Wow. So what would you say has been, if you want to call it, the most fun or most interesting case that you've been a court reporter on?
Um, well, you just kind of like made my mind explode. There's so many, and for differing reasons. I wouldn't say fun, maybe fun on my end, but really you're talking about people's lives, and it may be interesting, but you're talking about people's lives and what's happening. And I can think of a few. There's here in Atlanta, you get a lot. So I did part of the young thug case that was going on. I did one day. I one that really sticks out in my mind that I remember was like 8 in the morning. I did get home until midnight, and it was about a baseball team in the area, and it was just it had affected the whole community. It affected friends, parents, the school. It affected so many people, and it was it was an awful day for what was happening and the testimony that was being said. But there's cases like that. I've done a couple of criminal, like I said, the young thug trial. Those days can be very dark, and you just have to make sure not to bring that home. You listen for content, but not really paying attention, if that makes any sense. So that you're not, like, a lot of times when I'm taking down working, I'm thinking about what's to make for dinner, what time am I going to get home, what's traffic going to be like, what are we doing this weekend, the baseball games. I'm thinking about a lot of other things, if that makes sense. Not really paying attention, but because you can't bring that home with you. So but yeah, just every day is interesting. Every day is different. So while I may be doing the same thing every day, I'm going out to different places every day, being a freelancer. I'm going out and meeting different people, different attorneys, hearing different cases. I hear, criminal, civil, even homeowners meetings. So, I get to get a little bit of everything, which is what makes it so interesting every day.
Wow, that's really, really interesting, and I've always found it fascinating. So, what do you see as, I guess, an opportunities for young people or people wanting to make a career change in the court reporting field?
It's a wonderful career, especially if you're a single parent. Especially with COVID happening, you have the option to work at home with the Zoom depots or WebEx or Teams. And, there's programs out there that can let you try it to see if it's something you would like to do. I personally am a machine writer. That means, when people do the little fingers, that's what I do. There's also people who are voice writers, which, people will do that where they put the mask on. And here in the Atlanta area, we also have digital reporters, which is basically, they go into the courtrooms for the lower level courts or the rural areas and, do record, just because there's such a shortage here. And you can work as much as you want or as little as you want, and you have the option of making anywhere from 50,000 a year to 150,000 a year. It's up to you as a freelancer what you want to do. If you don't like driving everywhere and not being consistent in where you're going, you can easily get a job with the court systems, which pay anywhere from 60 to 75,000 a year. um, so I think it's a great career opportunity. It doesn't require a 4-year degree, even a 2-year degree. You just have to get trained in whatever method of takedown you want to do.
And, I think as we look at the trades and people trying to figure out what they should do, court reporting is definitely something I think people should consider. So thank you, Karen, for being such a gracious guest, and I'm sure we'll see you soon, and hope you have
All
a
right.
great one.
Thank you.